All right, welcome to this week's show of The Brighter Side of Blue. This week we are going to feature the story of the O'Brien family. They had three murders. Nobody's been arrested in any of those murders. We have as our guest Charlyn O'Brien, the sister of Brady and Kelty, who were two of the victims. They were her brothers, and her grandmother was murdered back in 1952. Again, there was no arrest in any of these cases. We're hoping to shine light on these cases, especially the last two of the brothers. We do believe that there's information out there and people have information that can lead to an arrest in these cases. Both cases are very, very close to being solved and they just need a little extra information. You're going to learn how you can give that information. We also joined by Frank Brostrom, who's the FBI agent that's been on before. And Frank is a private investigator in this case. And he's worked with the O'Brien family and Mark O'Brien to keep the dust off this case and keep it going. So hopefully we can get an arrest in these cases and bring closure to the family. That would mean a lot to all of us. And it's a very emotional story, but I think you'll all enjoy it. So that'll be coming up soon. We're going to have an abbreviated opening here because of the holidays. We hope you guys all had a great holiday. One more day left. Hopefully this can help those who went to the lake or other vacations to get home and listen to this story on your way home and make the ride a little bit more enjoyable. As always, we'd like to thank our sponsors who will bring to you another commercial-free show. Schicker Ford of St. Louis, Columbo's Cafe and Tavern, Fairway Automotive, Vail Professional Services, Campbell Security Group, the Riverman Cigar Company, and Prime Performance. Once again, we like to thank our sponsors. We talk about them a lot more on our live show on Thursdays. Always join us live on Thursdays. We'll be live again this Thursday. We'll have a couple guys. I think Frank's coming back on we got another story that's pretty interesting. So Frank will be back on this Thursday, along with some other topics. Myself, JJ, John Frank, Danny's out of town. His daughter, Mary Beth, is getting married. Best of luck to her and the Howards. And that this will be their first wedding. So good luck to all. We also like to give a shout out to one of our listeners that has been here since the beginning. Craig McNair, he had a little surgery last week. We think he's going to be okay on the surgery. And Craig is JJ's cousin. And then you often hear about JJ goes to Alabama and goes on these different trips with his brothers and meets up with his family. Well, Craig is one of the guys he always meets. Craig had some surgery last week. As I said, we think he's going to be okay on that. However, Craig is a Roll Tide fan and not off to a good start there with the Roll Tide. The run could be over, maybe not. Everybody's hating on this coach. So, Craig, you're going to have to leave in the comments what you think of Caleb DeBoers and whether he should be the coach moving on. So, again, the surgery is going to be fine, but we're more worried about Craig with the Tide. So, hang in there, Craig. It'll be okay. And another shout out, not a shout out, but unfortunately, just got done watching the Notre Dame game tonight. We're fans of Notre Dame because of Jeremiah Love, who plays running back for Notre Dame. And he is the son of Jason Love and LaTanya Love, two retired police officers from the St. Louis City. So we're always rooting for Jeremiah and Notre Dame because of that. Unfortunately, tonight didn't get off to a good start, but I'm sure there's better times to come for Jeremiah and his family. So, without further ado, I'm not going to keep you guys long. We really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, share. That really, really helps us out. Enjoy your Monday holiday. Enjoy the show, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Welcome back, as promised, to our feature interview. As we talked about, this is to me, one of the most interesting interviews, one of the most interesting stories that we've done. This will be in the top 10.
Yep.
We have Charlyn O'Brien Keene on. She grew up in a police family, and not only did she grow up in a police family, but then there was 3 victims of homicides within her immediate family and grandma. All remain unsolved cold cases. So it's unusual to have that in any place in one family, but a police family, it kind of hurts a little more for us, and then it's just also bizarre. But Charlyn, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming. Talk about a tough topic.
Having me.
And
Yeah.
thank you, Frank.
And Frank, and we also have Frank on. Frank's back, and he has some inside information. He's helped resurrect these cold cases, and you never know with our 59 countries and 380 million viewers if we get a little tidbit of information that maybe you guys don't have that could help in some way.
That's all we want. Just like the Nancy Brandon thing that we just
Yeah.
want to bring light to it.
Yeah.
There and you're going to hear about the circumstances. We're going to go through the 1952 murder of her grandmother, but obviously that's not going to be solved. However, the other two, which are Charlyn's brothers, Kelty and Brady, and with Frank's been hired as a private investigator and knows a lot about these cases, and we're just trying to see if somebody knows something. And I think we'll get into it a little bit later, but when we get to that age and it's 20 years later or 25 years later and you knew something and it's been digging at you,
It's time to give it up.
And you know something. It doesn't mean that you had to see something. Maybe you heard something.
Right.
And you heard it from a reliable source who was closer to the case. And guys like Frank and cold case investigators can follow those leads. And they can maybe drum up some different witnesses that they don't know about right now. But we're just looking for that one thing, or just that. It's like knocking on 2,000 doors, we're hoping.
Yeah.
So share this episode with other people. And that's all we're trying to do is bring light, bring some closure, and you'll hear some I'm sure I know very tragic things, very emotional. But all we want to do is help.
Yeah, let's hear it from
question.
Frank. So Frank,
No, I want to ask Frank a question. Frank,
yeah, that's what I was doing too, but that's weird.
I know, but you've been talking a lot already. So,
Okay, I
hey,
got you.
Frank, when did you get this case? When and how?
Hi. First of all, thanks for inviting me back. It's always nice to get a second invite on something like this. I mean, it's great. And if I can only get a second invite from women, I'd be all set, right?
We can't help you there.
Yeah,
You solve this case.
this ain't a dating show, dude.
This ain't a dating show.
Might be after tonight. You never know.
So you want me to tell the story about how I got involved? How
Yes.
I
No,
heard about it?
Oh, that's what you were going to say?
I asked him that. Yes,
Okay.
I was just curious.
Okay. Well,
You don't
okay,
live.
so-
You live in New York, right?
What's that?
Where do you live?
No. I live on the East Coast.
East Coast.
North Carolina, New York, same
close.
thing. And
I'm mixing
CNY.
up with someone else. But go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I hadn't been back to St. Louis. I left St. Louis. I was still an agent, but I transferred in 2007, came out to the Carolinas, and then I retired in 2017, and I hadn't been back for a long time. And so in about, I think it was end of 2019, 2020, I came out for just to get away and kind of do a little reunion tour to see, Scirocco family and McDonough and some of the FBI guys and my police friends, ATF. So we put together a little impromptu get-together, and strangely enough, it was at Maggie O'Brien's, right? So that's kind of coincidental. No connection with the O'Brien police family. So we were there, and my good partner, a friend of mine, Greg Lacombe, was coming with his girlfriend, and she had a friend, and they said, "Hey, we're going to come down and we're going to bring a friend with us." I said, "All right, cool, whatever." So we're there, and people were kind of coming in, and I was just, it was Old Home Week. It was awesome. It was great. And then so, in comes Walking Greg with these two people, and this reminds me of the old Holly song. I always think about this when I think of Charlyn, but the old Holly song, "Tall, cool woman in a black dress." So in comes these guys, and in comes Charlyn, this long flowing black hair, this long dress, tall glass of water, and everybody's like, "Who is that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, who is that?" And so we had a great time. She just kind of, melded in with our group, and some people knew knew her brother, from Guns and Hoses, Mark, and so we chatted, and throughout the night, it was a busy night. Everybody was talking, but I got to know Charlyn really well, and we started talking, and kind of at the end of the night, I think it was, she starts telling me, we were talking about, being retired and what I do and being a PI. And I said, "Yeah, we do all sorts of stuff, family stuff and, missing persons and cold case homicides." And she says, "Oh, really?" And somehow, I don't remember, maybe she could remember, I don't remember how we got into it. And she starts to tell me how 3 of her family members were murdered beginning in 1952, and this is a police family, and they all were unsolved. And I'm like, no, that can't be right. And I don't want to imply that a law enforcement's family members are any more important than anyone else, but I guess the best way to describe it is it'd be like a postman getting his mail stolen, right? Or like, Batman getting his cape, at gunpoint taken from him. It's just, it's just counter what a policeman, expects to happen. And so it was unbelievable to me. I said, why is this still a cold case? And so it just hit me. I had like, when Frank Brostrom gets one of these epiphanies, watch out, man, because I'll go. And here we are 6 years later, and I said, nah. So afterwards, I started calling I got my book out, started calling my ATF friends and everybody that I knew in Scirocco and McDonough. We got to get together and try to help out, because I've seen that in other cities where these retired guys help out doing free time looking at cold cases and trying to find new leads to help out the police department. And I said, we have to do this. So I was calling everybody, and everybody was all fired up about it. So anyway, I went back and I started talking to Charlyn. Oh, and I think I came back a second time, and that's when I met Mark. Charlyn took me to see Mark and Susan, his wife. And God, Mark was just a great guy. I never met him in person. I saw him on TV all the time. But I kind of embarrassed Charlyn a little bit. I probably laughed harder and longer than I have laughed as long as I can remember. Mark had me in stitches, and I couldn't calm down. And she's like, "Do you need like a Xanax or something?" I mean, he's just a funny guy, and I had such a great time. And so then I stayed in touch. We did some research. I got information from all of them, and then I got the police reports. McDonough and Scirocco helped me get police reports, and we tried to, get fresh eyes looking at it, right?
So you read all the police reports, you got everything. And then when my little anecdote to this whole thing is Frank came on our show and told a bunch of wild stories. And then Frank
story.
Wild. They were true, but they were wild. But then Frank remembered, or watching the show and seeing how many, listeners we get, he was like, well, do you guys mind, featuring the O'Brien family, and maybe we can get a hot clue, because Frank's been working on this for a little bit. And I said, absolutely. I know Mark and everybody. And let's get Charlyn to tell us about your family. And then, because we're saying all these names, and we really don't know your family yet. So talk about your family.
We did. I just grew up just like a normal family. My father, was a policeman. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I had an older brother, Brady. Then I was Mark, myself, and then my younger brother, Kelty. We just lived sort of a just an average family, on a police officer's
Your dad retired as a
salary.
lieutenant?
He did.
And what was his name?
He did. He was Charles O'Brien, but he went by Obie.
Okay.
And he worked in burglary and robbery. He drove Chief Chapman. I don't know if anybody here remembers Chapman.
Way back.
I can
Way back.
honestly say I've never heard that name.
He
Way
rode
back.
with Mo Moriarty.
Okay.
Another
Now you're
family.
now you're
There's-
talking.
Getting there.
There's quite a few Moriartys,
Right.
and it's just it's just regular Catholic family. I mean, my dad worked to put all of us through Catholic schools.
Wow.
And then it was just a very normal family.
What area of the city did you grow up in?
So we grew up, we lived in Holy Family, and then that, I believe, that was just for a few years, and then we moved to Epiphany Parish. And then we all four of us, went to Epiphany.
And your brother,
so it was just-
your brother Mark became a policeman.
He did.
and
He
they
later
asked-
became a
I think
policeman.
that's a good story. That and your father pinned the badge on him when
He
he
did.
graduated.
Yep.
He
Pretty-
did. And when he came back on, because Mark left the force, and then he came back on when he was 50, and I tried to bring that article. There was a big article in the paper about Mark that said, "Go, old man, go."
Yeah, because he went through the academy again
Again.
at 50, the
He
full
did.
academy. Yeah.
And he aced it.
Yeah.
So how was
Aced it.
the family? Who was the youngest?
So the youngest was Kelty,
And then,
with 4 years difference.
you,
Yeah, Kelty, myself, and then Mark, and then Brady.
Brady. Okay. So we've got now we're going to get into, let's just, I know you don't know much about, you never met your grandma.
No,
and you
never met my grandma.
But what did you hear
Unfortunate.
about that case and just what happened in that case?
Just, remember my grandfather had ran off to vaudeville. So my dad lost his dad early age. So my grandmother was trying to raise my dad. They were poor. And, so my dad's answer was, to go into the military, which he did. He's in the Navy. And, I'd have to look at his tombstone.
Did you just say that your grandfather went off to vaudeville?
He did. He ran off. And I remember hearing that story, and I'm like, he ran off to what?
Did he make it?
It was silent movies back then, wasn't it?
It was.
You don't know.
He ran off. That's what he wanted to do.
I didn't hear.
So
That's crazy.
he left my poor,
Come on.
and so she worked very hard, and eventually
Had to.
Yeah, eventually my dad grew up in a boys' home, and so she worked there, and she cleaned there and had a job there so she could see her son. Wow. So my dad started off. Yeah, it wasn't.
amazing.
It wasn't easy.
How old was she when she was killed?
So Frank, was there an age on there?
I don't recall that off the hand. I'm sure there was in the report, but I don't have it in my summary.
I don't even think she was 40.
Wow.
And then what happened,
And
to your knowledge?
So to my knowledge, she was at home. I think she worked early. She would clean houses, kind of had her own, because my dad was off at the time, in the military. And I assume there was a knock on the door. I don't remember exactly how that happened, but it was a robbery. And, he pulled a gun out. She had $7 on her, I remember, and a wristwatch. She had nothing at all. And he shot her in the abdomen, took what he could. I think she was still breathing at the time, but the only witness was a blind man that lived in that apartment building. He could hear everything, but, well.
For Frank, didn't she give a really good? Did you look at that case too?
Yeah.
So she gave a really good description of the person that attacked her, right?
Yeah, she was tough. So I don't know what her size was, but
She was tiny, very tiny.
Really?
yeah. So it's really hot in these apartments. She doesn't have air conditioning in June, so she had the door cracked, and that was kind of the problem. She didn't have her door shut and locked, but it was cracked. And this guy approaches her, a 25-year-old young black male, who they think later was tied to a rape nearby. She lived on Olive Street in the 11th district at the time. And so anyway, he approaches her and he's got a .38, and she cooperates, and he gets her $6 or $7 and takes her watch, but shoots her anyway, right in the abdomen. So she's in the apartment. Nobody would have known, but she crawled out of that apartment. She crawled into the hallway and was yelling for help. And the blind man came, and then the janitor came, and they called for police. And she lived all the way up until she got to the hospital, but she gave a very detailed description twice before she lost consciousness. And they were able to do a sketch of the suspect.
Well, he was. There was a robbery that happened on Washington Avenue. Same description. Did they ever lock him up or find who that was?
No, they didn't, and it was a robbery-rape. He raped that person, that one. And so they believe he fit the same description, and he was never identified, and the watch was never recovered. They had everybody fanned out, and they were checking the pawn shops, and the watch was never recovered either. So that.
Do you
was
have
just
that picture? Do you have that picture?
Yeah. Of what?
The suspect?
No. The sketch. It wasn't.
Yeah, the
in the
sketch.
file.
It wasn't
Yeah,
in the
it-
file.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a problem with cold case. That's something to be said about cold case. There's good and bad. With cold cases, sometimes the evidence is lost. Sometimes, sketches are lost. It's rare that evidence is lost, but it does happen. And, witnesses are no longer, they're either moved or they pass away. But what I like about cold cases, the point to make cold cases, is when you come back later, I have found in the stuff that Scirocco and McDonough and I have done, people are a little more willing to talk 30 years after it happens because they haven't seen the
Right.
bad. If they were feared for their life, they're like, no, I was afraid back then, but I'll tell you.
Right.
And that's a key to cold cases is witnesses who are no longer afraid.
Right.
To me.
Yeah.
And that's what we're hoping for.
Right.
And thank you. I remember now how she had no air conditioning and did have the door cracked, but that
Yeah.
was.
It
And
was
it was-
on Olive Street.
Yeah,
Yes.
June 30th, so it was in the middle of the summer, and
Yeah.
so she had the door cracked. Like,
She was tough though. A small woman like that taking a
Small.
38 to the stomach. I mean, she hung in there, man.
That,
that's an unbelievable story.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
so
story.
now we'll get to the ones that we're we're looking for help on. I think everybody, obviously some people have passed, but there's a lot of people that were around when these happened. I remember as a young policeman hearing about both of these. The O'Brien family was well known, and the brothers were well known, and for different reasons. And well, I mean, mostly being Kelty was a tremendous soccer player, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, another June homicide, June 9th in 1990.
Well, we'll get into the 19th. Brady was the first one. So, and then let's do the same thing. Let's. What do you know about that? And then we'll go to Frank about what was in the police reports. What do
Sure.
you know about it?
And also, I think, a lot of what Mark relayed. So with Brady had been to the racetrack. That was just something that, he used to do with my dad. Mark used to go. That was just something they enjoyed.
Let's do this. Before you get into the horrible incident, tell us a little bit about Brady and your relationship about Brady and what kind of person he was.
Yeah, Brady wouldn't hurt a fly. And to know Brady, high school is just handsome. I don't know how many people over the years, have talked about, I had a crush on Brady. He had the green eyes, the dark hair, looked a lot like my dad did. And I kind of showed, just a picture. I won't
We'll put
get
a
him
picture
out.
We'll have him up. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have him up.
And,
He was
Brady.
a good-looking kid for sure.
He was very handsome, very, very talented. I mean, he could play pool.
Better than Mark?
No.
We'll
No.
get into that too.
Absolutely.
We'll get into Mark towards the end.
Absolutely not. And, Brady might, no. But he was very, very good. And he was a great athlete. I mean, Mark and Kelty, Mark and Brady, they played a lot of sports together because there wasn't a lot of age difference. So, they would do the CYC sports, and then also, like at Epiphany and stuff. And Mark was the pitcher, pitched many no-hitters.
Really?
And Brady was the catcher. And, they'd go up and they'd have their little chit-chats and stuff.
Cool.
I mean, they
That's
got along.
awesome.
Oh, yeah. They knew when they were playing St. Ambrose. They had a game plan.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. But they did. And but with Brady, yeah, he was just very, very mild. Had a lot, didn't have a ton of friends, but everybody liked him. And, my parents divorced. I was 12. So Mark was 3 years older, and then Brady 4 years older. Kelty, younger. And I mean, that really shook up the family.
I'm sure.
So,
Yeah.
and I think Brady took it the hardest.
Really?
Yeah, he did. So, Brady struggled with some things, and but
That doesn't.
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
And,
No.
but Brady he was just a great guy, and everybody loved him. Everybody loved him.
I'm sure he sounds like a likable
He
guy.
did. He was-
I like
he
the
was.
one with him and Mark. I could see him and Mark's meetings at the mound, the
boy.
catcher and the pitcher.
When they just
I could see. I was just picturing that as you were talking about it.
yeah.
But
I could tell some stories, but I won't.
It's okay.
but now let's get into what did you hear about the night of the tragedy?
Yeah, that was rough. So I know that Brady had been to the racetrack, and I don't know if he went by the pool hall or not. Sometimes he would do that, but he was with someone, and then I know that he stopped off at White Castle, which was his favorite, and then he got dropped off and was just walking. It was a short walk to his apartment, and actually he lived with Kelty at the time, but this was not related. And as Brady was on his way, there was a party going on near there, and
What street are we talking about?
Well, he lived off of Keln.
Koeln?
Yes.
Yeah,
Live-
Keln and Eugene Avenues.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And there was a party going on, and someone recognized Brady, and just said, hey, why don't you stop off? I don't really think he wanted to, but he did. And so they welcomed him in and offered him a beer, but Brady didn't drink. He had some other issues here and there, but no thanks. How about a soda? And, he stayed there, and, from what I heard, there was a gal that started flirting with him, and it was a girlfriend of someone that was there, and a lot of the people that were at this party, they were doped up. There was a lot of drugs there, and Brady didn't participate in any of that at all. I know that, and then I think some words were exchanged, and pretty much I think Brady just wanted to get the heck out of there. And but they weren't about to. They weren't going to let him go. And he wanted to leave. And I know. I think somebody asked, well, pay for your soda you had. I don't think he had any money left on him. And then he just wanted to get out, and they had something else in mind. And I know for a fact that it
Yeah, and he just happened to stumble on a party that had some very violent people. They were well-known characters. We used to call them police characters. We're not allowed to call them that anymore, right? But some police characters there that were well-known. They were violent, and the guy didn't like. This was one of the worst guys that was there was his girlfriend. He didn't like the fact, probably because Brady was good looking, probably better looking than him, and his girlfriend was talking to him. And they're like, hey, you need to pay for that. And he's like, I'm just going to go. And he puts his drink down, and who knows? We don't know. And actually in 2020, right after this, Mark started getting some more information. It was kind of coincidental. And he was getting some more information. There was a guy who was a construction guy who was at that party that called and gave a tip about it and said he was there, and that's what happened. I'm sure maybe Brady gave him a finger and then thought he could outrun him, or so. I'm just guessing. I don't know he did that, but so this guy, another guy, chase him. They chase him. They chase after him because he didn't pay for his soda, and they caught him over by a loading dock, and they had knives and what they think was a handheld hatchet. I don't think they found the murder weapons, but a handheld hatchet.
What?
Yeah, and they came back to the party just covered in blood. Sorry, Charlyn. So they came back to the party covered in blood, and that's the story of the latest tip that we got on that.
Hold on a second.
and
That's the latest story. We just got that in 2020, that version?
In 2020, that was the most updated, and Mark got that through. Mark was getting tips once in a while, and he got that late in 2020, and then when I got involved, he tried to reach out and get some more information. And of course, certain people, the main suspect in that actually, so I was saying that Tommy was going to,
Tommy Carroll?
I think it was, Tommy Carroll was working homicide, and he was going to make a probable cause of arrest on it based on what we had and try to interview the guy, and found out that he was dead. But they don't know who the second person is. We don't have the identity. We have a name, but so that's as far as we got on that after that many years, and it was just stupid, just a bunch of violent criminals on drugs that didn't like a good-looking kid that got the attention of a woman at the party.
Well, that's one of the things that, and we're not going to mention the other guy's name because we don't want to give out.
Right.
No, the other guy, the guy that's alive.
Can we mention the dead guy's name or no? We don't want to go there.
I don't know. Do we want to mention his name? I think we stay safe and
All right.
Yeah,
leave it alone.
probably.
So
Yeah,
as we
at
sit
least
here
right
today,
now.
the information we have is a name of the second guy and a name of a dead guy.
Right.
and that's
Yes,
relatively
correct.
new
And
information.
then we really don't want to say that, because if anybody does come forward with information,
That's a good point.
you know, you don't want them to. You want to know that they didn't.
Right.
They didn't have any leads. You know,
Right,
somebody hears the name.
Yeah.
"Oh, I knew
That's
him.
good.
Blah blah blah.
That's a good point.
No.
They should call in anyway and let Frank sort it out.
Charlyn,
Yeah.
does knowing that this guy, they pretty much believe that he was part of it, does that give you any closure to that, or or not?
The dead guy.
The guy that
I would say most certainly, because some justice,
was served. Yeah.
but I believe he died in prison.
Frank,
Yeah,
can you verify that?
I did. Yeah, I don't
For
remember.
something
I don't remember all
else.
the details of that, but yeah,
So-
Tommy Carroll would know. He had that information, and you know, we didn't
Yeah.
go request the files or anything
Yeah.
from the PD. But I think the important part of that for us, for people now that are interested in this, is how many people were at that party that are still alive,
Right.
that saw them come back covered in blood, that knew that he was up. You know that more people knew about it, and they have all kept their mouths shut over these
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Somebody knows something.
That's very
and
true.
one of them have to still be alive.
Right.
You know, and maybe they're sitting in a rocking chair after having a stroke or something, and they want to tell their story. That's
Why does it have to be
we're
a
doing
stroke?
I think Frank is wishing bad on those that have withheld information.
Yeah, and he should.
No.
That is pretty pathetic.
it. Nothing wrong with deathbed confessions at all. You know?
No.
Right. Get it off your chest. I'm with you.
Heck yeah.
It-
You
it
know, I
mi-
used to interview people in prison and stuff, and say, you know, you knew they knew more, and said, hey, if you're ever on your deathbed and you want to give me a call, I'll come wherever you are to get the information. You know, and
So
it's
there
kind
was a
of-
part. Where was the party at, Frank? What do you know? What
Kind of in
street?
that
I don't
area.
know that we
I don't
need
know
the
the
exact address, but what street was it on? Was it on Keln or Eugene?
It was kind of there was an intersection there. It was kind of in the intersection, and they're right behind there. Yeah, I haven't looked at the police report in a long time, but there was a shipping, like a loading dock right near there. And I actually drove over there.
I think I know what they're
Back-
talking
I do
about.
too.
In
I actually
Crowley Park.
drove over there. I went to all these scenes just to see what was there, just to see, you know, just to walk them.
Down in the first district.
Yep. Just want to make sure that we know what
near-
area it was, so
there's like-
people that might hear it go, yeah, I might have been at that party.
Was it
Right.
near Crowley Park?
You know, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't call.
So do you drive you're
It
policeman
kind of
in the
was.
city, dude.
Yeah, so it's. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's in-
yeah, so if you're going
it's
to
in this
Cronlet
thing.
Park,
I
it
read
would
it.
be south.
I knew the answer I was asking.
You were just
It was
you were just wasting
southwest.
our time.
I want him to say.
He's in South Carolina, dude.
He's testing.
He said he
the
walked
TV.
the scenes.
You're
Southwest of
killing me.
Cronlet Park, right? South
Yes.
behind the
Yes.
Okay,
behind
thank
the grocery store.
There you go.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
So
that's
this
what- I
shakes the
just-
family to the core. I mean,
Yeah.
unbelievable to lose
What
a
was
sibling.
and Danny asked it earlier, but when you guys heard that there was a suspect, and then the suspect died, were you disappointed that he
We
didn't get
didn't-
arrested for it?
Didn't hear that for, seemed like it was quite a while later.
that you heard he died.
After the murder?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it was because
It
when
was not-
Tommy Carroll found that out when he was going to do an
Yeah.
arrest. He was going to do a probable cause and hold and interview the guy.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was
and-
already a felon, and he was in for something else, and he, you know, he died in prison, but I don't think it didn't have anything to do with Brady's murder. So, but yeah, to know that he was no longer on earth, to do that to
Right.
someone else, obviously, yes. I mean, you know, it was a relief, but, you know,
There's still one more out
you
there.
want a little more.
Now, this is the one we really need help on. So I don't know how we want to start this. Charlyn, we'll start with you. And this is the with Kelty, and this happened in 2008. Can you just tell us what you know about it? And again, let's start with talk about Kelty. Talk about
Sure.
Kelty first, and what kind of brother he was, and all that. You don't have to. Bad question. My bad.
Kelty was my baby brother.
Okay. Then you just want to leave it. We'll leave it at that.
He was.
But
you
I'll
know,
talk a little bit about Kelty. So I was talking to a couple people today about it, and one of them was Tom Malachek. And Tom Malachek brought up the point Kelty was one hell of a soccer player.
Yes.
He was really, really good, and played at St. Louis U High. And Tommy played at CBC, so obviously they knew each other, you know. And Tommy said That Duke of Flat play soccer. And JJ would, and you heard some stories about him too, because
Today.
you would think that somebody of your stature, JJ, would know all soccer players.
Well, I knew that name sounded familiar right away, but Marty Pike is a buddy of mine. We played.
Oh yeah, I went to high school with him.
Marty, we played junior college together. And I talked to him today, and he said for sure that I played against him in one of the club games, whatever. But they were really good friends. They were the best of
They were
friends. They
so
grew up
good.
together.
You remember
Yes.
Marty?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He lived down
Oh,
the
yeah.
street from
they were
us in
they were tight.
Clifton
And
Heights.
he tells a story
Yeah.
that your father used to take him to the ball game.
Yeah.
Could get him in for free because there was a policeman, and then they'd have to walk back home. Like they were young, I mean, really young. And he goes, we'd walk back home to the mansion house. He lived up
They did,
on the
yes.
14th floor, and he used to race Kelty up the steps of the mansion floor. But he says, can you imagine that now? Just dropping your kids off this and letting them walk all the way home.
That ain't gonna happen.
That ain't
Back then, that was
nowadays.
common though.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I mean, our parents back in the day, they just dropped us off anywhere.
yeah.
Hey, good
Yeah.
luck.
Yeah.
Yep.
Marty's awesome. But yeah, my dad, after my parents divorced, he moved into the mansion house.
Okay.
And actually, Kelty lived with him for a while. You know, he went down there, and it was a nice little getaway, and they had a pool, and you just make the best of the situation
Yeah.
and all that. So
I think to make this easier, we're going to go to Frank on what happened here. Would you rather do that, Charlyn, or do you want to talk about it from your eyes?
I can say a few
Charlyn,
things.
talk about your
Uh,
courier service. Charlyn, talk about your courier service and how he worked with you originally and
Okay.
then left. Talk a little
Yeah.
bit about that.
So
That's
Kelty actually helped my late husband start a courier business. My husband ran a printing business. And his father was very involved in politics. I won't go into which side. This isn't a political show.
Right.
Very involved, and so that's how it started. And then my Kelty, who was already working for a courier, at one of the holidays just said, you know what, Mick, you need to start a courier business, and I'll help you. And he did. And it was Keen's Express Delivery Service. It started out, really well. They worked together for a long time, but, things happen, and sometimes it's just not easy to work with family. So Kelty later, after we grew, he moved on. But he had already worked for a couple couriers, but he moved on, worked for, other ones.
Competitor.
And, but so basically, I believe it was in 2006, they started talking again about Kelty coming back to Keen's. And then in 2000, my husband asked him to come back, 2005. And Kelty agreed to do that. And that was huge in our family to think, okay, this is great,
Coming back together.
coming back together
Right.
again. Yeah, and it just getting family back. And he agreed to do it, but there was a problem because he had a non-compete with another company. And so things just kind of laid low. But then my husband died suddenly in October of 2006. And then it was just kind of, I did know about the business. I worked there part-time, but not enough to really run it. But we had great employees that were there and still staying there. And so I think with that, Kelty wanted to come back sooner, to help his sister out.
Right.
And to lead into a little bit more, he did come over, and it was great. And on November 7th, he was on his way to work over there by Guarantee Electric off of Parker Street, about
Beck, Parker and Beck, Northwest.
Parker and Beck.
Okay.
And I had a client, Guarantee Electric, right there, and it was about 6:10 in the morning, because Kelty always, that's when he would leave home. He was due at 6:30. And his birthday was the next day, and they already had the office all decorated for his birthday. That's what we always did.
Right.
And he never made it. And you know the rest.
Frank. Take it from there.
Yeah. Well, I'll say something about a lot of homicides, and you'll get this. McDonough would back you up on this. I think the statistics are 70% of the time you eventually have a person of interest, or the police know who it is. Okay. And for those that aren't law enforcement, you have reasonable suspicion and you have probable cause. This is the problem with cold case investigations. You have a lot of reasonable suspicion, you have some probable cause. But what you need is enough probable cause to not only arrest them, but take it to court and get a conviction. You can get an arrest on a little bit of probable cause, but as an example, prosecutors want something close to 99% probable cause to go to trial. So, not to say they won't prosecute others that are, that have less probable cause, but that's kind of what you're up against. And so, cold cases kind of get caught in between that, and in that rut, right? And some cases get solved right away. You see these shows, First 48, and all that stuff. And when you go beyond that 48, the same with child abductions, you get past that 48 hour and your chances drop of solving that case. And only years later or months later, it's only because of a tip, a break that you hear, you get a break on a case, right? None of these cases got the break that they needed at the time, and it was really tough. And so I went out and I walked that. I walked the path that Kelty would have driven that morning. 6:10 in the morning, nobody's awake. I think I did it about the same time of year, not the same day or anything, but nobody's awake. It's 6:10 in the morning. I think the electric company, there's nobody around. Right. And he comes to that corner. He's facing the electric company. He comes to that intersection. And this was an ambush. They knew. They had probably done pre-surveillance on him. This was, for better choice of words, it was probably a murder for hire. In other words, somebody hired a couple of guys to do this job, to do this homicide. That's what it appears. And so he rolls up to the intersection, and he's not even stopped yet. And it's a matter of seconds. They hop out, boom, and the car rolls. He's gone. He felt no pain. He was gone right away. The shot was placed very close and very accurately, and he died instantly. And the car rolled up into the gate of the electric company. And so I walked that, and I thought, man, being the guy, because I've been there before, right, in the bullpen, right? Hey, Brostrom, boss wants to see you, and you get a case. Here's a case. And you go out there and say, hey, this is the O'Brien family, right? And so you go out there, and I'm standing there, I'm putting myself in the place of that detective or detectives, standing in the corner and going, no witnesses, no cameras, right? No evidence other than, the bullet. How the hell are you going to solve this case?
Yeah.
Right? I don't care if you have the best detective in the world. If there's no evidence and no witness, if you don't have any leads, it doesn't matter how. The only thing that matters being the best detective in the world is being able to find those leads, right? And find that evidence that maybe somebody might overlook or not have the energy to pursue, right? Doggedly pursue. That's the only difference between, a great investigator and someone who's not, really. A lot of it's chance and Murphy's Law, I think, as well. But yeah, I saw that. And I will mention that this case, Kelty's case, had the eyes of some legends in homicide. Chris Pappas, Joe Burgone, Brian McGlynn, Tommy Carroll.
Yeah, some of the best.
So you had that, right? It wasn't for lack of the talent at all, at least initially. And then as it grew colder and colder and colder with nothing, what are you going to do? You have, they probably, it sounds like they hired a couple of gangbangers to do this job for somebody. And we believe we know who did that.
Right.
Okay. And McDonough says, see what I mean, Frank? Like, we know who did this, but you got to get that. You reach that probable cause. So
who hired somebody, right? That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, we believe that's what it was. Someone hired somebody or owed somebody a favor and did this. And I think because of some of the crowd that he knew and the business that he was in, very highly competitive. When you work for a bunch of different couriers, people don't want, I have to sign non-disclosure, comps all the time, right? Because the PI business is very cutthroat. And it's the same with the courier business, which I didn't know at the time. But the good thing is we all put our heads together with I reached out to experts, and McDonough and the McDonoughs and other people talking about this, but working with the O'Brien family and with Mark and with Charlyn, we kind of figured it out. We put 2 and 2 together and we ran some names and we went, bingo, the light went off. And this happened post 2020 when we kind of figured out the whole scheme, right? So all I can say right now is I wrote that, what I call prosecutive report up, and it got the attention of people all the way to Jeff City and to local, state, and Fed. And some of the legends in prosecution are looking at it. So we just need some more.
As we speak, they're looking at it.
I know you can't say names, and I read.
Yeah, I can't.
I said the name. I read the thing you put together, and if I was in charge, I'd go book that. I'd go find him, and I would book him because it's the circumstantial evidence is over.
JJ's not worried about getting a warrant issued. He's just going to go book the guy.
Well, I mean, if you look at the evidence they have, and I know they need more, a little more, but you don't need much more. I mean, you need to confess. You need somebody to come forward. And
as long as the persons of interest suspects are alive, the days count, and they're probably sleeping. And when they see this, they're going to be sleeping with one eye open.
Yeah,
it's coming. It's coming. And
Good.
Like I say, I'd rather be lucky than good any day. But when I get that epiphany, when I was in the bureau for 28 years, I would get this feeling about something, right? And people are, my supervisor would know. My supervisors at first were like, "What, man? He goes kind of crazy." But then they learned that just leave Frank alone, and he'll do okay. And I'm not saying I'm any kind of savior for these cases, right? Like I said, the legends of the police department look at it. You've got legends looking at it now. All I have done, all I can take any credit for, is I just got this feeling that this is not right, and I kept it out of the basement, and with the dust off of it.
Right.
And is that what it takes? I'll take that any day, right?
Your gut's always correct, brother.
Yep.
Yeah, I have that. I get that feeling when I do, man. And coincidences, I'm at O'Brien's and I meet the O'Brien family, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's crazy. And I'm going to tell you something. This is weird, and I didn't even think of it. And I told them I love Tom Brady, right? And so in recent years, some of my closest friends, because they know that, they call me Brady, and I get. Is that and I didn't even think about that when that started to happen. That was not I was thinking of Tom Brady,
right.
And so I'm like, holy. So when this all came up and somebody says, "Hey Brady," and I'm just like, whoa, it kind of gives me the chills. That's too much coincidence for me.
That really is.
Yeah.
So we might be getting close to solving one of them, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think they're both solved. I think both her brothers are solved. Getting the convictions on Brady is going to be difficult because the main guy's dead, but it's still prosecutable if we get the other person that was involved. That was not a one-man job, and so that's still possible. And there are people that are every once in a while get a hold of the O'Brien family and give them a tip. So, I'm not counting anything out.
And we'll get to where the tips can go here in a minute.
Yeah.
But one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Charlyn, is, we've just heard just tragedy after tragedy here. What keeps you going?
Well, I think mainly, and I'm not on social media a lot, and probably the only time I really get on there is when it's the anniversary of the death of, like Brady or, Kelty, and just trying to keep it alive. And the responses that I get of people that love them and just so many good things and that pray about it. So I think that's what keeps me going, is because I know that nobody's forgotten. And like Frank said, he's never let dust on the case. And I haven't seen Frank in 5 years. Maybe?
Yeah.
But when he met Mark,
Well, we talk all the time. We talk at least once or twice a year.
Yeah,
About it.
Once or twice a year. There you go. And just the fact, I think that's what keeps me going. But I've always, I just pray to God. I mean, I'm not getting younger. I don't care what y'all said when I walked in. I'm not young, and I would just, for Mark, myself, I have 2 half sisters, family, my
You have some family out here, and
Some family
Frank,
out here
family and
today,
friends are
and
out here, and there's
yes.
little support.
And-
That,
and more than friends, that are supporting me, and they know. And
right?
So
How much this means.
that's what keeps me going and from falling apart.
Yeah.
Because
And Mark's wife, Susan, when she heard, and she saw my prosecutive report for the first time, I guess he hadn't shown it to her, and she read it, and she called me crying.
she's here.
Oh, awesome.
She
Say
is
hi to
here.
Susan, Frank.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, girl?
I can't see out there.
She's waving to you over there, Frank. You just can't
She
see
and her
her.
brother are here. Yeah.
Yeah, so she got really excited, and she's been kind of communicating with Mark on it and keeping
Yeah.
that going with him, but he's very emotional about it. He wants, before he leaves this world, he wants to see justice.
Let's talk a little
he
bit
did
about
a lot.
Mark.
He did a lot of the legwork.
Right.
He never
Yeah,
let
he
it go.
did. He
know?
never let it.
Right.
Let's talk a little
He
bit
worked-
about Mark. We are a police show. Mark was a policeman. He was a policeman with us. He is in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Well, let's go back to earlier. And John brought it up in the introduction of last show. He went through the police academy twice. He went, and then he got out of the police department, and he was out for so long that when he wanted to come back, it just wasn't just going to the, we're just going to give you a job as a policeman. He had to go through the academy again, and he went through the academy at 47.
And I heard that he finished in the top of physical fitness.
Did.
Yeah.
And then,
Can you imagine
That's
that with
awesome.
Yeah.
all of his issues now, but he was
yeah.
50 to come to
and
the
Mark
top.
went to Southwest High School, and he was a classmate of Mike Barra, who's a friend of mine. And I told Mike about this show, and I said this on an earlier show too. Is Mike told me that Mark was not to be trifled with.
Well, he went to high school with my brother.
Yeah.
He was friends with one of my brothers, Art and Tom, and they said the same thing. Mark had this look about him, kind of slight, small guy. Go ahead and give it a whirl.
Yeah.
Go ahead and get a taste of that. It's not
Give
gonna.
it
It's
a
not gonna
whirl.
feel. It's not gonna feel too good.
But unfortunately, Mark is battling right now. He's got cancer, and and Charlyn, you told us earlier he's been on chemo pills for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
Darn close. Yeah.
10
He
years.
is tough.
That's a tough
is
dude.
tough.
Because that'll put the normal person down within 3.
Right.
You just
Tough.
to keeping just pounding them chemo pills down. But Mark's
And he's
that
still
kind of
cracking
guy.
jokes. He's still cracking jokes like a comedian. It's crazy. He just he should have been a comedian.
Is he still doing pool lessons? I heard he would still do that.
Yeah.
He is.
Yes.
He is, and it's not hard. It's hard for him to get down the steps. Susan knows more than me. Susan traveled just a little bit. She's had a lot of tough times in her family, but we won't get into that right now. But we love her and pray for her, and I'm so appreciative the way she cares for my brother, because he is my hero.
That's
My dad was my hero, but now Mark is.
Mark is. I mean, he was unbelievable in pool. So I
But
witnessed it.
we didn't even get into that. He was a
Did you
pilot.
ever see it?
No, but I'd like to take a lesson.
They said he's like
You should.
Minnesota Fats good.
No, 100%.
Oh,
Get
yeah.
over there.
100%.
He will give you a
I want to
lesson.
do. I keep saying I'm going to do that. I know a couple of buddies of mine that have gone down there. A couple of policemen.
Yeah.
But Mark is also the voice of Guns and Hoses for over 20 years, which gained him a spot in the Boxing Hall of Fame.
It's-
And
Susan, it's more than 20 years. How many?
37
yeah.
years.
37.
Because,
I was a
yeah.
little short.
Okay.
That's short.
Yeah, you were tan.
I'm glad I didn't say
I
that.
didn't
You
mean,
would've
I
ripped
didn't
you
mean to
guys to black.
correct you, but I had
and
to.
I should be corrected on that because I was way
Yeah.
off. If I would have said like 30, you would probably
Yeah,
have
if
said,
you were
all
off
right.
a couple months or
One of our
something.
pictures, that was Susan and I in the ring this
Oh,
past
okay.
year, because Mark was unable to get
Yeah.
there. And it was
We'll put this up.
amazing.
Let me
See. Yeah, Mark and
was-
Put
Steve
this up.
Holly are unbelievable friends,
Oh,
right? Yeah.
unbelievable friends.
And unfortunately, Jack, who's no longer with us.
Martirelli, and he was just such a staple and such a great guy. And I know Larry O'Toole is now taken on, love Larry. He was very good to Mark, when he was sick.
Right.
Or
So-
Jerry Lee.
Captain
Yeah.
Speece, or he was Captain Speece at the time.
He
It
was.
He was when he was with Mark, but
As soon as he came in, he's like, hello. And then you said, that's Mark O'Brien's sister. And he's like, oh, geez. I said, we've met many a times, over the
He's getting
years.
senile in his old age.
he's kind of
Oh.
senile, dude.
Oh, okay.
Let's just don't.
Right.
It is
Speece
dark.
there, right?
It
Is
is
Speece
dark.
there in the
It is dark down
Yeah,
here. though.
Speece is
Yeah,
out here.
Speece
He's
is
out
here.
here.
Oh, tell
he
him I
doesn't
said
know
hi,
he's
man.
he doesn't know he's here, but hey,
It is dark. So he just came for the show.
He did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. He heard we were talking about Mark.
Yeah. And Lay Shock. I mean, there's just so many that have.
And Mark means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, not just you. He means a lot to the police department. He means, he's a brother.
yeah,
He's a brother to all of us too.
Right.
So,
yep, 100%.
and we want to help this whole family
Thank you.
get some closure, just a little bit. There's
We're
two out
close.
there that's close. All they need is a little bit more information. And Danny, who can they call for that?
Crime Stoppers at 1-866-371-8477. 866-371-8477. And like Tommy was saying earlier, let Frank be the judge if your information's good.
Right.
Let him sort it out and see if it sends us over the edge.
And we've
and
worked it
gets
out.
us-
We've worked it out with Crime Stoppers that Frank will be getting the information, and then Frank is working with the local and federal people, and I know he's working with the Missouri cold case people on different cases, not just this case, but several cases, and Frank can make sure that information gets vetted, and he'll get right on it. Put it that way. A lot of times you feel like you call Crime Stoppers and somebody doesn't do anything. Frank, you gonna do something with that information?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 24/7.
We're going to hold you to that then, 24/7.
Absolutely. I'll be calling you guys, waking you up at 3 a.m.
Well, we want updates, especially if you get any calls.
Yeah,
any
please
calls
give
at
us
this point.
updates, and
Absolutely.
we'd love to have Charlyn back on with
With a good story.
with a good story
yeah.
and a good
yeah.
ending to this, and for her and for Mark and for the rest of the family as well.
And I'm glad that you could smile today too. And
Yeah.
I'm just so
Again, we're
honored,
just-
and that that you talked to Frank, and the fact that we could come on here because you guys don't really talk about cold cases. I usually just we're laughing our butts off watching your show because you just gotta.
well, when you have
So-
Billy Noonan on, it's hard. It's hard.
Yes,
to not
and we
laugh.
watched it. We watched it. and
Billy's a
couple of the
city
other ones.
legendary guy that you knew, right?
I knew vaguely, but Mark kind of filled me in on a few things.
That's right.
and-
You said that as soon as you mentioned Billy Noonan, he said, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
We didn't know what to
Exactly.
expect either, though. We were kind of nervous, to be honest.
Right, with all that. But we, I appreciate it. And if anybody out there, if you know anything, I mean, there's so much more we could say, but we can't say it.
Right.
And there's,
Yeah.
I really think we're getting close to some closure, on Kelty's.
Yeah.
And
We need to get
well-deserved.
Mark or your dad's handcuffs ready because that's what's going to go on the person.
Now
that'd be
that's
cool.
some positivity. Now that's
Yeah,
what we
that'd be
want to
cool.
hear right there.
That's
I
a good
don't
way to
know.
end.
I don't have any.
I bet Mark
Oh,
does.
my sister-in-law does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take
Oh,
Mark.
she's got marks. Okay, she's
Yeah.
got marks.
I
She'll
have
be
my
glad
day.
to up them. She said she'll
Yeah.
be glad to up them for that day.
Yeah.
Thumbs
And
up.
so-
We got the thumbs up. But yeah.
Yeah, tough conversation. We really appreciate you coming
Absolutely.
on, and we hope we can do something for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having
Thanks,
me.
Charlyn.
Thank you.
All right.
Frank, thanks.
I'll talk to
Hang in
us
Mark.
some
there, beautiful.
updates.
Call me if you need anything.
All right. You'll be up. You'll be coming on again. You got stories left.
Yeah, see you next week.
Yeah. See you
See you
next
next
week.
week.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
That was
Kelty went to Missouri Southern.
He did.